everyone, good afternoon. You're watching Market Fatafat right here on ET Now. I'm Mubina Kapasi. Markets seem to have staged a rebound from yesterday's drop. We are firmly above 11,500. The Sensex is clocking in gains of more than 200 points. A good going for the markets. But this is the show where we identify individual movers and shakers. So let's get right to that by first up introducing everyone who's going to be joining us on the show. We have Soumya Sharma, and on the technicals, Richard Jain of Angel Broking and Rajesh Palviya of Securities join in as well. So thanks to all of you for joining in. In fact, they're going to be joining in just a bit. But let's kickstart the show then with the big movers and shakers. And stock number one has got to be from the realty space, given that that's once again buzzing away today in trade. Godrej Properties is one such stock we're flagging off. And of course, the added impetus or the added boost for the stock has come in also from the CLSA report, where they have maintained a buy with a target at 1,024 rupees, as they do like the launch momentum by Godrej Properties, and that is something that's driving market share gains for them. In fact, even their recent project in Pune with respect to the affordable housing project is something that's doing very well for them. The response has been very good, so that is something that underpins their hopes on demand as well for residences. So that's why CLSA has a buy, and 2.8% of gains is what we are looking at for Godrej Properties. But moving on to another big mover, and that is Yes Bank. Soumya, what's the news over here?
Well, the management of the company met over 35 foreign investors and DI investors over the last 2-3 weeks. Well, they were joined by the newly appointed Ravneet Gill, who is the managing director for this meeting. They spoke to T. Rowe Price, Capital Research, Franklin Templeton and Westbridge. The key takeaways from these meetings were that the capital raising was one of the top priorities for the bank, and they're in process of hiring a new person for the retail operations. They are continuing to focus on compliance, and they'll increase their compliance to solve all the current issues with the RBI, and the company is working on a detailed strategy, and they'll come out with this strategy soon.
Okay, so that's Yes Bank, and it's 2% higher for this one. In fact, it's the third straight day that we are seeing very smart gains come by for this counter. Another stock that's gaining is Radico Khaitan. This morning we had a note from Motilal Oswal based on their recent interaction with the management of Radico, and they sounded very optimistic because the management did tell them that they do expect double-digit volume growth in the prestige and above segment, which is of course a high margin part of the business for them. And more importantly, Uttar Pradesh, which forms almost about 20% of their total sales, has seen a rapid and substantial improvement in their sales volume. So that as well is expected to bode very well for the company. And based on those positive comments, we are seeing Radico Khaitan do very well. In fact, it's managed to surpass 400 rupees as we speak. Moving on to a stock that's not doing very well, and that's ONGC. Richard, I think Richard has been able to join us now. Richard Jain from Angel Broking. Okay, Richard, hi. Good afternoon. Let's talk about your view on ONGC. Today it's a big laggard.
Yeah, hi, very good afternoon. Well, we have seen that in last 1.5 months, the prices have moved higher after forming a support base around 125, and the up move has also been supported by good volumes. So I think before the stock resume its uptrend, we would see some sort of consolidation in the range of 145 to 160 for next few trading sessions, as 160 is the resistance that has been seen in the recent past as well. So for traders, whenever we see some dip around the support area of 145 to 150, look to accumulate the stock there on dips.
All right, 2% down for ONGC. Another stock that's declining is Hindalco. We have with us now Rajesh Palviya of Securities. Hi Rajesh, what would be your observation on this 2% dip that we're seeing in the stock?
Yeah, if you look at the Hindalco throughout the series, we have seen a lot of volatility in the metal pack, and Hindalco was quite volatile throughout the series, and we have seen that stock has witnessed consolidation in range of 190 to 215. This was the range. So my advice would be, if stocks corrects towards 200 is a buying opportunity with stop loss of 194, and again I am expecting that stock should rally towards 212 to 215 in the near term.
All right, so that's the word on Hindalco. Next up, another stock that's not exactly doing very well in trade is Dr. Reddy's, among the few list of losers. Richard, what would you recommend as a strategy here?
So this has been a month where not many pharma stocks have shown any kind of great outperformance. And Dr. Reddy, if you look at the weekly charts, then there is a resistance around this 2750, 2800 mark. So it's not expected to show any kind of outperformance in at least in short term. I think broadly we would see some time-wise correction or consolidating in the range of 2750 to 2600 on the lower side. So one can avoid buying from a short-term perspective.
Right. So that's DRL, it's 1.7%, and at this point of time, Ruchit is saying avoid taking fresh positions in this stock. Okay, next up, PSU banks have today had quite a steady run up yet again. Bank of Baroda, something I want to flag off because just as we speak, it's perched at the day's high, it's at 129 rupees. And I think what really boosted the stock price during the day is also the news with respect to the preferential issue, which the bank is doing for the government, where the government is going to be infusing a little over 5,000 crore rupees. And of course, not to mention the Supreme Court as well has given the green signal for that merger with Vijay and Dena to go forward. Today, Bank of Baroda is seeing significant traction and it's higher by 6% in trade. Another sector and stock that's seeing a lot of green on the screen is the IT space, and within that, Just Dial. It's another day, Rajesh, where we are seeing strong gains here.
Yeah, if you look at the overall structure of Just Dial has formed rounding bottom formation on the daily as well as on the weekly chart, and stock is now sustaining above its breakout level. So looking at the chart pattern, I feel that stock should continue its upward momentum in the near term to short term basis, and I am expecting that stock can rally towards 645 to 655 in the near term. So one can keep a stop loss of 595.
So it's a buy on a Just Dial with a target at 655. Soumya, how's the OFS response been for Sheela Foam?
Well, talking about the OFS to the non-retail investors, well, it got 2.8 times demand on day one at an indicative price of 1,185 per share, and the OFS opened for the retail investors today, and the last time I checked, it was at the subscription was at 0.6 times the total issue size.
Okay, Sheela Foam down 1%. Remember, yesterday we had seen quite a lot of pricing action here. Unichem Labs, meantime, is a big mover. This after the company has announced yesterday, post-market hours, that it has received the final ANDA nod from the US FDA for the tadalafil tablets for different dosages. So that is something that's keeping the stock excited. It's more than 2% higher. Richard, let's talk about some of these logistics space, all cargo logistics, VRL logistics, all of these stocks today are in focus. All cargo is gaining, but VRL today is showing a falling trajectory. It's almost about 2% gone. What would you recommend here?
So firstly, if you see this entire logistics space in last one and a half year, they have seen a very sharp correction, and even during the up moves, you are not looking at the volumes flowing in all the counters within this space. So one needs to be very selective within this logistics space. VRL Logistics has a resistance around 290, which is its 200-day moving average, and until we see the stock crossing above this resistance, I think the stock is unlikely to show any kind of significant up move. Comparatively, all cargo I think looks better. We have seen that in the recent past there has been good volumes on the up move. So if one has to take any stock within this space, then one can avoid VRL and rather take position in all cargo with stock below 108.
Okay, so Richard is not that optimistic on a VRL or in the logistics space for that matter, but yeah, if you want to stick to the space, all cargo would be a better bet. Rajesh, JK Cement, we've had news that there's been a rise in cement prices in the south. JK Cement, however, has seen quite a drop. It's a 1.6% fall. What would you make of this move?
Yeah, if you look at the structure of JK Cement, stock rallied, and then after consolidation now stock is showing some sort of again buying interest. So overall, if you look at the structure is in the positive territory, and I feel that in the near term we can again see upward momentum towards 875. So any dip near to 810 or 800 is a buying opportunity. One can keep a stop loss of 795. We are expecting target of 875 in the near term to short term.
Okay, and moving on, Soumya, Tata Motors, another ratings cut.
Well, yes, Tata and Empower have cut JLR and Tata Motors credit ratings on Brexit worries. B plus from B minus following JLR's weaker than expected Q3 results, and they said that they could further cut JLR's rating by one more notch if Britain leaves EU without a deal or Washington slaps new import tariffs on the cars. This move is expected to raise companies' funding costs and is highlighting global concerns.
Alright, so that's of course the word coming in on Tata Motors. Khadan, meantime, is seeing some fund action, and on account of that, look at the way the stock price has moved 12% high as we speak. Though of course it's come off a tad bit from the day's high, wherein it was gaining to a level of the stock being pushed beyond 500 rupees. Nevertheless, still very, very firmly in the green. This after UTM Mutual Fund has checked into the counter, buying a little over 5 lakh shares. So this one's in focus. Soumya, what's the news on Infosys? A big acquisition by them.
Well, yes, it's an update on the joint venture. Infosys and ABN AMRO have announced strategic partnership in the Netherlands to strengthen mortgage servicing capabilities through digital platforms. Well, remember, ABN AMRO happens to be the third largest bank in Netherlands, and as part of this announced partnership, Infosys will acquire 75% of the shareholding, while ABN AMRO would hold 25%. This JV enhances Infosys' presence in Europe, and this transaction is expected to close during the first quarter of financial year 20.
Okay, that's the view on the individual stocks. We'll do one thing. We'll take a quick breather right here on the show. But before we do that, quick check on the markets, which is only staging this one-way move. Nifty is at 0.7% of gains. Nifty Bank continues to be at record high, above 30,100. In fact, I think it should be 30,200 is where we would be perched for a Nifty Bank. Yes, as we speak, at the day's high and surpassing, in fact, even making its way to 30,300. So yeah, banking stocks continue to be the cynosure of all eyes, and yeah, record highs for the Nifty Bank. We'll slip into a short break, come right back for more news and updates. Welcome back. You're watching Market Fatafat right here on ET. Now let's continue with this countdown of the big movers and shakers. Soumya, let's talk about M&M Financial. Yesterday we did see quite an uptick come by in the stock price. Today, however, it's just a slight uptick.
Well, yes, the stock was on day's high but has come off today's high. The news flow in the company is the company had acquired additional 1.2 crore shares of Mahindra Rural Housing Finance Limited for an approximate value of 286.8 crores. Well, this acquisition has been from National Housing Bank, and the company as a result has raised its stake to 98.4% instead of from earlier 88.8%. Well, the company is expected to complete this transaction by June of this year.
Alright, moving on to another name in the NBFC space, given the fact that they are really, the sector of the season. Richard, what would you recommend on a Shrey Infra?
I think we've seen that this stock has shown a huge underperformance in last 1.5 years. In fact, this has been within the NBFC space. It has been one of the wealth destroyer. I think any such pullback moves along with the broader markets which we are seeing, that should be used as an opportunity to exit from any existing long positions if stuck from high levels. We're not expecting any kind of trended up move over here. Even if you see the volumes on the pullback moves are much lower. So you use this pullback move as an opportunity to exit from this stock.
Alright, so that is the word coming in on a Shrey Infra. Richard is actually saying you should consider exiting longs in a Shrey. NBCC meantime is in focus and is gaining very smartly because the company has received approximately 4 to 5 new orders, and that aggregates a total of 1,000 crore rupees. Hence, right from the word go, the stock price has been in focus and it's gone about 64 rupees as we speak. PSBs then, like I said, the Nifty Bank is perched at yet another record high. Rajesh, how would you look at PSBs, and more specifically a Union Bank, which again, like the rest of the banking space, is at the day's high?
Yeah, we have seen a significant rally in the PSU banks especially. So if you look at the Union Bank has confirmed double bottom formation on the daily as well as on the weekly chart, and looking at the pattern, stock is showing a lot of strength on the near term as well as on the short term chart. So now stock is near to its multiple supply zone of 98. So my advice would be if once the stock crosses this 98 level, then one can again buy the stock, and I am expecting that in the near term we can see the target of 110 to 115 on the chart. So chart is quite bullish and one can remain long in the stock, and on the breakout of 98 stock can rally for 110 to 115.
All right, so that's the strategy on Union Bank. And again, keeping it with the NBFC space, Soumya, what's the latest on DHFL?
Well, talking about DHFL, according to reports, Piramal Group and Daring Private Equity are in advanced stages of negotiations to acquire majority stake in the housing finance company. The stock is, as a result, is up by approximately 11 to 12%, and in fact has been gaining for the past 3 days and has gained over 17% during this period. Well, the stock happens to be even a top Nifty mid-cap gainer.
All right. So that's DHFL, and yes, double-digit gain seen over there. Another stock where we have seen quite a bit of bounce come by is Arvind Limited. Ruchit, from the level of 74, 75, it's now gone up to 90, more than 90 in fact. So what would you recommend here?
So there have been signs of pullback move in this. If you look at some lower time frame chart and the early chart, now in last 1 week, whenever there has been some corrections, those corrections have been bought into, and the support base which were earlier, as you said, around 74, 76, have now shifted higher to 84. So till the support is intact, one can expect this pullback move to continue towards 96. Any existing long positions now, 84 should be the stop loss.
Okay, that's Arvind Limited, 3.6% higher. Another pack that's really buzzing very smartly today is the fertilizer space. Put your finger on any of these names, an RCF, the FAC, GNFC, GSFC, all of them are gaining very, very smartly. Anywhere between 2 to 3% is the kind of gains we are seeing. So steady up move seen in the fertilizer pack, and that's the reason why we are flagging it off in Market Fatafat. All right, Manappuram Finance as well seeing very steady gains. Rajesh, your technical take here?
Yeah, if you look at the overall structure, stock, rallied from 66 level all the way to 124 level. And if you look at the structure now, stock is in V-shaped recovery. And looking at the structure, I feel that, momentum should continue in the stock, and we can see a target of 130 to 135 in the near-term basis. So one can remain long in the stock and keep stop loss of 120.
All right. Soumya, by the way, there's also the big nifty mover HCL Tech. There's an upgrade from Bank of America. What do they have to say?
Well, yes, they've upgraded the stock from neutral to buy. Well, they say that they expect organic revenue growth rate to improve in FY20 and act on the back of accelerated win rate in the key offering of cloud and infrastructure services. They also believe that the success and challenges of the recent buyout of software products from IBM will be visible only on more than after 12 months time horizon, and this IBM deal is EPS accretive till then. They've raised their FY20 to 21 EPS by 2 to 6% and have also lifted the price target from 1,060 to 1,250 rupees. Stock gaining by 3%.
Okay, and let's talk about Max Financial Services. Richard, this is the only one, in the entire NBFC space that's not exactly participating in the games.
Since the month of October itself, whenever the stock comes around 460, 455 range, it again faces resistance and we see selling pressure from there on. So until we see a steep breakout above 465, I think the stock would continue to show such underperformance. And relatively, if we see some other NBFCs, then we prefer M&M Finance over Max Financial. The stock has been showing good volumes during up moves. So I think one should look to avoid Max Financial until there is a breakout above 465 and rather prefer going long on M&M Financial at current levels.
Okay, it's an avoid on Max Financial. By the way, just pull up the Nifty. Take a look at how the index is actually rallied. It's in fact, it's at the day's high. What a surge witnessed just in the last couple of minutes. And it's a triple-digit rally that we are seeing on the Nifty after the blip. I think it's now clear that yesterday's down was just a blip, because see the way we're powering ahead for the Nifty, trying to make our way towards 11,560 at this point of time. It's 111 points of a rise coming in. The Sensex too has been rallying. In fact, I think it's more than 300 points of a gain seen over there as well. And of course, the Nifty Bank is once again leading the way. It's perched once again at a record high of approximately 30,300 or 30,400 in fact as we speak for the Nifty Bank. And we are a little over 200 points away from a record high for the Nifty 50. Still a bit of time away for that. But folks, thanks so much for joining in then. Ruchit as well as Rajesh for giving us your technical take. Soumya, to you as well. We'll wrap it up, and coming up next is closing trades.